right, so we're programming an Allen-Bradley MicroLogix 1100 PLC. So that way we can run a conveyor system and some lights to show the mode of operation. What we see here is the station, the computer station, so that way we can actually program into the PLC. This is a demo trainer. Allen-Bradley and Border States had actually helped us get this for our program. And what we've got here is a MicroLogix 1100 PLC with the inputs on the top, the outputs on the bottom, and the power. And then there are some push buttons that are here. And there's 10 of them, 10 push buttons, and there's 6 output lights. Notice how when I push this button, this light comes on. The way the program was set up, it was a mixer tank program, and so this is the start button, and so that green light came on. We're going to see the same thing in our program that we're going to develop, where the lights are going to come on depending on whether it's the motor, the green light, the yellow light, or the red light. That's going to show for our conveyor track system. The Rockwell software MicroLogix 1100, here we go, and we want to develop a program. And so let's start with a new program. And we're going to use the MicroLogix 1100 Series A. Hit OK, and we see that the program is, here's the data files, the inputs, the outputs, the timer, the counter, etc. And these are the rungs that are going to come on here. So I have to make sure that this is highlighted and it's on, so that way I can put whatever it is I need. I've got various, I got the rung, I got the branch rung, I got the examinative close, normally open contact, I've got the examinative open, and I've got the output energized. And so I use these to create the program up here on the user tab. The timer counter here is timer on, timer off, the counter up, count down, and the reset buttons are on the timer counter tab. So I'm going to be using those. And if I wanted to grab a rung, I could pull it down here, and notice how there's a green box inside the red box for the first rung, and I put that on there, and it added a rung. And if I wanted to put a normally closed or examinative open switch, I could drag that down to there, and what happens is this is for the stop button. And if I wanted an output, I could grab the parentheses for the output energized, and I would put it over to this side. One of the important things to know is you can have as many inputs on a line as you want. You can have limit switches, pressure switches, vacuum switches, float switches. You can have all kinds of proximity sensors, etc. You can have as many inputs on a line as you want, but you can only have one output per line. The reason that is because it's getting 120 or however volts it's getting, might be low voltage, but that voltage is going to that output. If you put more than one output on a line, it's going to treat it like it's in series, and it's going to split the voltage, and it will not operate your output load properly. You have to hook up the loads in parallel. You can't have but one output on a line. So we're going to set it up so that way you can actually see me create this program in here for the conveyor track system. All right, so we want to develop a program for our conveyor track system in the PLC, the Allen-Bradley MicroLogix 1100. If you'll notice, it says RSLogix MicroEnglish. It's Rockwell software. And so we're going to click on that, and we're going to open up the program, RSLogix Micro Rockwell, and we're going to go to File, and let's create a new program. So the MicroLogix 1100 Series A or B, we hit OK. And we're going to notice on the screen that we have, it says Untitled, so we can actually save our file, See, we go to here, save as, and we'll call it spikes conveyor. Oops, spinning like a voyeur. Conveyor with lights. And we'll hit save. Okay, so what we have here, spikes conveyor with lights. The project comes down here to data files. And you'll notice output, input, timer, counter, etc. So let's look at input. And if we click on input, you'll notice that there's a bunch of bytes in here. Input 00, input 01, input 02, all the way up to 15. There's 16 bits in there. Then it goes down to the next one, etc. So we can put a lot of inputs in here to control the various things that we're controlling, lights, conveyor, motor, etc. The output, same thing. Output 00, 01, 02, 03. So we're going to use this. And here's the timer, T40, enable, done, the base, etc. Then the accumulated presets. And the counter, same thing. C5, 0, counter, count up, count down, etc. Accumulated. And we'll be using that as well. On this very first rung, it's an end. It's the end of the program. You're not going to put anything on this rung. So what we need to do is we need to highlight this top task strip, and you'll notice that the red light comes on that rung. We need to go to the user tab, and there's various things like the new rung, branch rung, or rung branch they call it. We've got the examine if closed switch, the examine if open switch, and we've got the output energized. There's some latches in here, but you don't want to use those for this program. It latches until you tell it to unlatch. And it'll hold that circuit on unless you're actually using it properly. So we're at the user tab. And we want to pull a new rung down here. So I'm going to grab that new rung. And you notice that there's a green box that's over here on the left side in that red box. See how it turns to green? When it turns to green, that means that you can add your device or your rung or whatever. And there's a new rung that shows up. Let's just grab another one and just put it in there. See how we can put it here, or we can put it down here. Either way. So, doesn't matter at this point. So we've got two new rungs in here. Now, we want to build a program that's going to control the motor for the conveyor and the lights. And we're going to have some inputs. We've got the push button station, the on-off switches, and we've got the limit switch that's going to be an input. We've got 4 outputs. We've got the conveyor motor, we've got the red light, the yellow light, and the green light. And we have to operate those according to what the program requires. So I'm going to put on this rung, I'm going to grab the stop button, or the normally closed or examined if opened switch. And this is going, it's got a big question mark here. Now I can right click on this, and it says cut, paste, delete, insert, new branch append, change instruction type. I can use that to change it from a normally closed to a normally open, or examined if closed, because it's examined if open now. If I right click on that. If I left click on it, double click on that, it'll open that up. And I can actually type in input, colon, 0, 0. And that would be the stop button. And if I left click on that again, I can open that back up and I can change it. If I right click on that, I can see where it says append the new branch, change the instruction type, etc. Now I want to label that. So if I wanted to, I could go to input over here, and I could grab this 0, 0, and see how that red box turns to green when I drag that there? And so I've got input 0, 0, and down here it says simple. And the symbol is the stop button. And it basically will stop the program description. So I'm going to go OK, enter. And how does see it says stop input 00. Now, I want to start the program. So I need a normally open, examine if closed button. So I need to highlight that. I grab that, I pull it down here, and I'm going to go to input, and I'm going to go input 1 there, and I'm going to drag that up and I'll put it there, and I'm going to call it the start button. Enter. And now I have a start button for my program. What am I starting? Well, I'm starting the motor. So I'm going to go grab this output energized, the parentheses, and I'm going to put that there on the right-hand side of the program. And I go to output, and I'm going to call my motor output 04. So I'm going to put output 04, and I'm going to call it the motor, which will be actually the mag starter that will send power to the motor, but it's actually the motor. Okay, so what I've got now is I have a stop button that will stop the program. I've got a start button that will start the program, and I've got the motor. Now there's various things that we need to take into consideration in what's going to turn on the motor and turn off the motor. Now we know that we want the motor to be off when we hit the limit switch. So I need to put a limit switch in the line of the rung. So I'm going to grab a normally closed, examine if opened, and I'm going to make this the limit switch. So that way the program will shut off the motor when the limit switch is held. So that's an input, and I'll call that input 2. Input 02, and I'm going to call it the limit switch. Enter. Limit switch. That's going to shut off the motor. Now, one of the things that we know about motor controls, if we've been doing it for a while, is that we need a holding circuit or an auxiliary contact, memory circuit. Something that's going to keep the motor running, because the start button is only a momentary contact switch. And so we need a holding contact to keep the motor running until we shut it off. So I'm going to have to put a branch rung in here. So I'm going to grab this rung branch, and I'm going to grab it, and you notice how the green box on the left side of the start button, and I'm going to put that there, and I'm going to grab this red box, and I'm going to put it on the other side of the start button. So I've got a branch rung now. And what would work best to keep the motor running than if I use the motor that's running to keep the motor running until I shut it off? So I'm going to grab a switch down here, examine if closed switch, and I'm going to, and this is interesting, in this program I could grab, notice how I highlighted the motor with the output 04, I can grab this black box, and notice how the blue box is going across, output 04, the motor, is coming over here to this, and I'm actually using the output as an input switch. This is the input switch. It's controlling, the power's coming through, the green stop, comes down through the branch rung, comes through here. When the motor's actuated, there'll be a green line coming across here showing power going to the motor. So I'm actually using the motor to keep the motor running. I think there's one last thing that we need to add to the circuit at this time for the first rung. The first rung, I'm going to pull the normally closed, examined if open output, and I'm going to say that this is C50 done. So I'm going to go to the counter in the data files, and I've got C50 for the counter, and here is done. So I'm going to grab that and I'll pull it over here, and when the counter is done for the 5th time, gone through the cycle, it's going to shut the motor off. It's going to shut the program off. It's going to open up this switch. We're going to add something in another branch rung underneath the start button eventually. I'm not going to do it right now. We're going to do it so that way, what's going to turn the motor back on? After the motor has been shut off by the limit switch, it needs to start back up after 5 seconds. So we're going to add the timer T40 done after it's counted 5 seconds. We're going to add that down here, but we'll do that after we've created the timer. So we're basically ready to stop, start, control our motor. So let's grab this other rung, and can I pull that down below? Yes, I can. So usually I like to set up my programs so that way it starts at the top and then sequentially works its way through each one of the rungs to build the program. So I drug the rung down below this first rung, and we're going to put something on the second one. So what do I need on the second rung? Well, when the motor is running, I need to turn on the green light. So let's grab an output energized, and we'll call this output 1, and I'm going to call it the green light. Enter. So I have an output 01 as the green light, and I have output 04 as the motor. Now, what is going to turn on the green light? Well, how about if I bring a examine if closed switch, normally open. I use the motor to control the motor to keep it running. If the motor is on, can I use that to turn on the green light? Why not? I see using, when that output is energized, it will send a signal to the green light to turn on while the motor's running, the green light's on. I am going to turn off the green light with the limit switch. When the limit switch is actuated, it's going to turn on the yellow light and shut off the green light. Okay, so let's build another rung. Drag another rung down here. What is the next thing that I need to do? Well, I need to put a timer on there to control the motor being off and the yellow light being on. So let's put a timer in there. Timer on. Timers go over where the loads are at. So let's go to timer, data file, T40. Notice everything on this line. I'm going to highlight everything on that line because everything needs to go to the timer. There's a red box in there, and I've got T40 as the timer. The timer base is 1 second. You can go to hundredths of a second or thousandths of a second on that. So you can create a half a second, quarter of a second, whatever you want. We're going to use it for 5 seconds, so I just got a time base of 1. I go to the preset. I'm going to call that 5. I've got 5 seconds for that timer. Now, what's going to turn on the timer? The timer is turned on by the limit switch. The limit switch, when you hit the limit switch, turns on the yellow light for 5 seconds and stops the track for 5 seconds. So let's use the limit switch, input 02, to control that timer. Now we need something to keep the timer on. So I'm going to build a branch rung. go on that side of the limit switch, pull this over to the other limit switch, grab a normally opened, examined if closed switch here, and I am going to use the yellow light to keep that timer running. So, an input or an output. The yellow light is going to be output 02. And I'm going to call that the yellow light. Enter. And I'm going to take that and go down to there. And output 02, the yellow light, will keep the timer energized. Oops. Let's go back. See how I did that? There's a redo and an undo up here, and for some reason it skipped over. So I'm just going to undo what the computer errantly did. And I've got the limit switch controlling the timer and the yellow light keeping it energized. Now what's going to shut off the timer? Let's put a normally closed, examined if open switch on there, and we're going to go to the timer, and you'll notice here T40DN. I'm going to grab that bit, T40 done, and when T40 is done counting 5 seconds, it's going to open up and shut the power off to that timer so it doesn't keep running. Close. And I'm going to use C50 done to shut off any power. So when the counter's done counting 5 times, it's going to shut off the power to the timer as well. The next thing that I probably need to build is the power going to the yellow light. So I've got the output energized. I'm going to go here. Now, the output in the data files is output 02. If I grab that and pull that over there, the yellow light's there. I could have probably grabbed this output here and drug it over there, and it would have still been the same. I could have done the same thing. So I've got the yellow light now. What is going to control the yellow light? The limit switch. The limit switch is going to turn on the yellow light. So if I go to input, and I go to input 02, and I grab that and I drag that down to there, it's going to be the limit switch. I could also go to up here, input 02, grab that, drag it down to there, and it would be the same thing. Now I need something to control the yellow light to keep it on. So I'm going to grab a branch rung, I'm going to pull it down here, drag that over to the other side, and I'm going to put a normally open, examine if closed switch there. And this is kind of interesting. The yellow light, I want it to be energized as long as the timer's running. So notice here, T40 enable. As long as the timer is enabled, it will keep power going to the yellow light. And what is going to shut off the yellow light? Well, I'm going to use the timer. When T40 is done, counting 5 seconds, it's going to shut off the yellow light. Okay, so let's build another rung. We're going to go down to here, and we're going to create a rung for the counter. I go to the timer counter tab, and I go to counter, count up. And I drag that over to the load side of the program. And the counter, it's got a question mark in it, and I go counter. And I go C50. I got to highlight everything in that, so I drag C50 down to there. The preset that we wanted was 5 cycles. So I put 5 in there, and we've got a preset for 5. What is going to control the counter? Well, the limit switch, when it's hit, it could actuate it. The yellow light, when it comes on, it could count it. So what do I want to use? limit switch or the counter or the yellow light. So I am going to go back to the user tab. I'm going to go to the normally open, examinative, close switch. And let's just use the yellow light. When the yellow light comes on, it clicks the counter. Counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The yellow light comes on, and it will hit the counter. Now we've got one last thing that we need to do. So we add another rung. We come down to here. Now, we've got the green light, we've got the yellow light, we need the red light. So the output energized. We've got the output, and the output, we'll call it 3. And we'll drag that over to there, and we're going to call that the red light. Been there, done that. Enter. Okay, so we've got the red light. And what is going to control the red light? Well, the red light is going to be on all the time. It's going to be on when the program started. The red light is going to come on after the program has completed itself and it's counted 5 times. So let's take a normally open, examinative, closed switch. We'll pull that down there, and I'm going to say when C50 is done, if I can get that to open, C50 is done. What happened? It wasn't highlighted on that rung. So when C50 is done, program's done, it's going to turn on the red light. Well, we also know that when the program is stopped, we want the red light to be on. So I am going to make this input 00, the stop button, and I'm going to go here, input 00, and I'm going to pull that over there so that way when the stop button is actuated, it turns on the red light. Now, I need to take into consideration when the motor is running and when the yellow light is on, the red light's off. So let's pull another branch rung down here. And I'm going to put that there, and I'm going to say, okay, if the green light is on, if the motor's running, if the yellow light's on, it's going to shut off the red light. So let's go output, and 4 was the motor, and 2 was the yellow light. I wonder if those need to be, if the motor comes on, it'll close. If the yellow light comes on, it'll close. Stop button is pressed, it will close. Okay, the last thing that we need to do is we need to reset our counter. So let me grab another wrench or another rung, pull that down here. I need to go to counter timer, reset, because we're going to reset C50. I can either grab it from the counter, pull it down there, it's going to reset C50, or I could actually go over here to the counter, go to here, C50, reset, pull it in there, and set the reset. Now what's going to actuate the reset? It would be the start button. So let's go back here, let's go to the normally open, examinative closed, and the start button was input 0, 1. I could grab that and I could drag that all the way down to there, or I could grab it from here and pull that from there and put that in there and get the same results. So the program should be set up to work, so we can test it. One of the things that we're going to want to do is, in preparation to see if the program works, is you'll notice up here in the upper left-hand corner it says offline. Go online, download, upload. Well, before I do that, I'm going to go to View, Result, Standard, Zoom in, Zoom out. Okay, Edit, Verify Project. Verify the project, and it says Verify has completed, no errors found. If I go, let me just do this so that way you can see it. I'm going to remove this Start button to reset the counter. And when I go back up to Edit and I go Verify Project, why did it do that? Huh, that's weird. No errors found. Let me get rid of this. Now let's verify the project. Notice when I eliminated the C50 done, that for the red light, it says errors. And it's got program files. And it says run 5, instruction 1, warning, shorted branch leg found. So that means I need to fix that. It will show you in the Verify project where there's a problem with the program. So I'm going to grab a normally open and I'm going to go C50 done. And I'm going to grab that and I'm going to pull it down to where that's at. Now, I can close this, and I need to put that Start button back in there. I don't know why it didn't show the error when the C50 done reset, but okay, so I've got everything back to the way it was. Now when I go to Edit, Verify Project, Verify has completed, no errors found. So we're good to go. We can actually download this and put it in the program, into the PLC. So it says downloading program. Are you sure you want to proceed with the download? Yes. Okay, so it shows it downloading it. Do you want to go online? Yes. So notice how this is in program mode. That's reading back from the PLC that's in the trainer. So if I move this down into run mode and hit OK, now it turned green and it's in run mode. And it will show the program, right now it's in run mode, and the PLC's program. And we'll demonstrate that here shortly, but I want you to see the program on the screen as we go through it. So if I hit input 1, notice how the green bars are on the motor, output 04, and the fourth light is on. And notice how the green bars are outside output 01 for the green light. So the motor is running and the green light is running. The yellow light is off, the red light's off. You see where they're sitting there? Okay, so the motor, the green bars from the output to the input on this branch rung is highlighted. So the power's coming through that branch rung, coming through the limit switch, through the counter switch to the motor. It's running. Now, when I hit this limit switch, input 02, when I hit that, it's going to shut off the green light, it's going to shut off the motor, and it's going to turn on the yellow light. See there? See how it's going through there? T4 is enabled, and then after 5 seconds it's shut off. Oh, you know what we forgot to do? We forgot to put that branch rung that I was talking about on the first rung that we said we were going to have to come back to in order to keep the motor, the ability for it to restart and turn the green light on. So let's do that. So notice how I'm in run mode up here, and I want to go offline. I need to go offline, and I need to go back to the program so that way I can set that up. Okay, so we had a problem. So let's fix it. So I go to the branch rung, I pull that down there, I pull that over to the other side of the motor, and now I am going to use a normally open examinative closed switch. And when this timer is done counting 5 seconds, it's going to come back up here and it's going to send a signal through the branch rungs back through here to the motor to restart the motor and to actuate the green light. Okay, so let's go back and download. Downloading? Yes. Do you want to go online? Yes. So we go back to run in that sequence, and now let's try it. I hit the start button, the motor's on, the green light's on. I'm going to hit the limit switch. The limit switch, 1001, 1002, 1003, the yellow light's on, 1004, 5. Notice how when the T40 was done, it actuated and it sent the power back to the motor and the green light to turn them on. And once the motor was running, the power came through and kept the motor running. We could go through this program 5 times. Let's do it. Here's the second one. 2003, 2004, 2005. The motor's on again. Hit the limit switch. Turns on the yellow light. 2002, 3, 4, 5. Turn on the green light. Yellow light went off. Hit the switch again. 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turns the motor and the green light on again. Where's our counter at? Our counter is at 4. It counted up. So we're going to hit the switch one more time. See how it turned to 5? Okay, so now this opened up. So on the 5th time, it stopped the motor. It stopped the green light. And notice when C50 was done, the 5th time that it counted, it turned the red light on. The program's done. Now, notice when I hit the start button, let's see if we can keep it. Here's the counter. It's accumulated 5. I hit the start button, and it went back to 0. The counter has been reset by the start button. So let's take a look at the unit now, and you can actually see the switches and the lights working. Okay, so what we want to take a look at is the demo trainer. This is the Allen-Bradley MicroLogix 1100 PLC demo trainer with the push buttons here, the red, and the lights, the green. And we want to take our program that we developed in the computer and transfer it to the PLC. So the PLC, when we turn it on, it's in the input-output status, monitoring, and mode switch mode on the screen. And we want to get to the mode switch down here and below. So we're going to hit this diamond, and I'm going to go down and scroll down to mode switch, and then I'm going to hit OK. And when I get OK, it says mode switch. There's a bar up here that shows which inputs are energized, and then it says program, remote, and run. So in order to put the program into the PLC, we have to be in program mode. And you'll notice that this, when I hit this back down into run, and it'll change in the computer program and turn it to green. So let's go ahead and zoom out. And we're going to show the program here in the computer. And so what we can do is, it says offline. And what we want to do is we want to go up here and click on that, and it says download on the upper left-hand corner. So download. and it says, downloading the program. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. We verified the project, everything was cool, we're good to go. Do you want to go online? Yes, I do. And you'll notice it says program here, and it's in program mode in the PLC. Well, we want to take this down to run and hit OK. And now it's in the run mode. And you'll notice in the run mode that the program, the green light for output 3 came on. Output 3 is the red light. And you'll notice that it's coming through and it's going through our normally closed, examine if open contacts for the motor and the yellow light, that when those are on, it's going to turn on the red light. So our red light's on in our system downstairs or on this trainer. So here we are with the red light on. Now, the start button is 0, 1. So if I hit input 1, it turns on output 1 and output 4. And output 4 was the motor, and output 1 was the green light. And you'll notice how it comes through the holding circuit, the output holding circuit comes through, and it goes to the motor, which is on, and the motor, when it's running, it's turning on the green light. The limit switch is going to shut off the green light. The limit switch is also going to shut off the motor. That's input 2. Notice when I hit number 2, it turns in output 2, which is the yellow light. And it's going to be on for 5 seconds, and then it's going to shut off, and it's going to turn the motor back on and the green light back on. So let's take a look at that again, and I'm going to hit 2, it turned on the yellow light, 3, 4, 5, the track started running and the green light came back on again. The third time I hit the limit switch, it turns on the yellow light, the yellow light's on, it's 3, 4, 5, the motor comes back on, the green light comes back on. This is the 4th time that I hit the button. The yellow light is working and the counter is counted to 4. When I hit it the 5th time, it turns on the red light, which shut off the circuit, shut off the motors, shut off the yellow light, and the red light came back on again until we reset the counter and restart the program by hitting input 1. And there the motor and the green light are running, the start button. It reset the counter to 0 again until we hit the limit switch 5 times. We have just created a program for the Allen-Bradley MicroLogix 1100 to run the conveyor and the lights for our system downstairs.